Mike from around the world. Mike, how you doing tonight?
God bless you, Pastor Paul. Doing okay.
Mike, it's trying times, isn't it? Like
It is.
let me ask you this. In your line of work, have you ever seen it this busy, this much chatter ever?
No,
It's
no, not at all. We have things are growing and expanding. Troubles are brewing, most definitely all around the world.
So, Mike, you mentioned, and I want to go right to that we're talking about apocalyptic signs, and of course, we've had different guests talk about the solar eclipses and the blood moons, and about the asteroid Apophis, and some people want to talk about the southern border being invaded, and the cultural the signs culturally that have changed. But you mentioned something about this coming summer and maybe the months to come. Can you elaborate a little more on that?
Oh yeah, this everybody has noticed weather phenomena are gradually increasing, right?
Yes.
What they may not have noticed is some of the tracking of the magnetosphere has been giving telltale signs that we have a gravitational force warping in our magnetosphere, as well as other planets, is becoming one of the number one topics or research fields. Those who are in the workable sciences in NASA, JPL, European Space Agency, so on and so forth, because they're trying to determine a mitigation factor, what they can do to oppose whatever force is causing our magnetosphere to start to give away on one specific side of the Earth, which, by the way, is going to be disastrous as it continues because it causes massive heat blooms to form within our atmosphere, right? Which is going to increase our fire potential by at least 400%.
What?
Because we're stable right now, even with the fires that we've been having. And we've been in somewhat of a fire stage or fire season for the last 32 years. So imagine the dryness, the heat, the combination of those elements driving fires even more than what we've seen. When that happens, when fire starts to develop within the USA, large scale in multiple places. For example, Texas had some disastrous fires. California's had some disastrous fires. But imagine fires going off in multiple locations that are record breakers all at one time. Well, that's going to alter the entire weather system of the USA, right?
Yeah,
Which is going to that will cause some very real issues. That's going to uproot Americans where they are. And we are red flagged. We're going to be red flagged throughout the USA for the duration of the summer. That's an expected condition that we're going to be in. A red flag means conditions are favorable for, fires. They're going to be up. They're getting everybody ready. They have been recruiting firefighters and they're training as many people as they can, getting their supplies ready because they understand what we're about to face. And the wind drivers, right? Not only the fires, but we know the wind can drive fires, storms can, and then they alter how these fires, the effectiveness of these fires, or how devastating they can be. We've had wind speeds that have been increasing very steadily throughout the years. Right now, we're quickly reaching the wind speeds that can actually maintain, I'd probably say, baseball size or 2 3/4 inch hail consistently, right? All the way up to 4 inch hail consistently. And those are just 100. 4 inch hail is 103 miles an hour. Right.
oh,
That's 4 inch hail. So you have to have an updraft of 103 miles an hour, and you have 4.5 inch hail.
okay.
The wind speeds already last year were recorded to be 121 miles an hour going straight up. right? It was just a blessing that they weren't going up in updrafts in these, some of these colder regions of the atmosphere to cause that hail to form. We're not going to be so lucky this year, right? Because we essentially live under a storm blanket. The entirety of the USA, Canada, parts of Mexico share storms. Now, these storms are massive. One complete system spanning the USA, Canada, and Mexico. These storms are huge. And so now wind speeds of about 200 miles an hour will finally probably be reached this year, many suspect.
No.
Updrafts. These are updrafts. Yeah.
Updrafts. I mean, not straight line, which that's horrific, straight line. Updrafts even harder to do that kind of speed, isn't it?
Right. Think about the heat. When heat rises, it causes a type of convection. So any wind speeds that are about 140 miles an hour, straight line winds, can escalate going straight up. In other words, they can double in speed going straight up. And that's what causes hail. They will double in speed going straight up. Now, we all know people talk about 75-pound hail, right?
Yes, yes.
Well, the calculations, that would be about 15 inches across, right? 49 inches in circumference. That would take about 250 mile an hour winds to produce 75-pound hail. 250. So we're not going to be far from that number. We're quickly building up to that number in these updrafts. Again, you have these straight line winds of about 120 or 140. Those wind speeds double depending on the temperature of the ground in comparison with the atmosphere. And when they're shot up, it's like blowing cold air over a boiling pot of water. All that air is going to be redirected straight up with force, almost like a jet engine. And so we're quickly reaching a point where that can easily be, produced. I wouldn't be surprised if people would see 8-inch hail this year, which is, near 170 miles an hour. So I wouldn't be shocked for people to see that. But again, when the wind speeds double because of the heat, with a combination of fire, the extreme temperatures, because the temperatures are going to go up again, we're going to see updrafts we've not seen before.
So
and there's another.
Oh, wait,
go ahead.
let me ask this question. So we're going to see more fires, and we have been seeing them over the last decade at least. But you're saying probably over the last 30 years or so. So we're going to have fires. Are these fires coming from the heavens down, or from the magma up?
You have a combination of events which makes it so dangerous this time. Folks are familiar with Iceland.
Yep.
And after the first eruption, while everybody was saying, okay, it's going to calm down, and I think I was one of the voices who said, no, it's not going to calm down. It's going to continue to erupt.
Yes, you
it's
did.
Going to erupt. After it erupts, it's going to erupt. Because a lot of what Iceland is, the nature of Iceland and how it's constructed, how it's formed, is not shared. This thing has about 7 to 8 Yellowstones underneath it.
Oh,
right? So
are you serious?
It's not going to run out of magma. It's going to continue to do this. Plus, it also goes down to a crevice or a crease in the crust, and it's disturbing the continental plates big time. All right, so Iceland is the place where you don't want an eruption because it always indicates large continental shifts. Right, we're talking large continental, heavy continental shifts where thick crust is located, and so it actually marks the beginning of a type of end, which means an end of peaceful weather, because that same eruption event we'll start seeing that all over the world as more and more magma is active and reaching its way to the surface. But yes, it has chamber after chamber after chamber after chamber of magma underneath it, right? This eruption has only disturbed the top chamber, not the many chambers below that. And there are many chambers below that. And so as one evacuates, another one starts to fill up. But then the other ones start to activate. This will double the effects of those eruptions as time continues.
So we literally are scraping the surface. We're literally
Right.
scraping the surface.
That's right. That's right. As a whole, the Earth has been very silent in comparison to what it's building up to, right? All the earthquakes,
Now,
all the eruptions are marking a big change in geology all throughout the Earth.
so is the gravitational pull from this, from what we've talked about before, this binary system, this huge, large body of something, even though we can't see it, or maybe they're hiding it from us, or maybe we just can't see it, but whatever, it's pulling on everything. So is that gravitational pull, is that what's causing wind speeds to change? Is that what's also causing volcanic or volcanism to rise? I mean, is it a combination?
Well, it's actually contributing to all of it. For example, as we have magnetosphere warping on the Earth, but we also have that with other planets who have a magnetosphere. We can see their magnetic field lines being compressed on one side, compressed and drawn on one side. So the bow shock of the Earth is facing the sun, right? All that solar wind hits the bow shock. These magnetic field lines of force actually redirect those solar winds. Well, that's going to shift. That's going to move, right? So then the bow shock is going to be pulled to one side. And what that means is some of those solar winds that have been redirected for many, many years, they're going to start passing through our magnetosphere straight to the Earth, which means we're not going to have the protection we once had, right?
No.
That's also going to happen on other planets. For example, Venus is heating up. I believe it's having spikes of 400 to 500 degrees in its temperature, right?
Wow.
All these, so you're having these changes, solar system wide, taking place like this from an external, a massive external influence. This is going to continue, but as it continues, conditions on the Earth will begin to degrade, right? I know they talk about global warming. You can sometimes use that science to explain what's happening on the interior portions of the Earth. For example, some of the formation of these larger storms. The sun also is going to be more violent in what it does, much more violent, right?
So the
So think
debate.
this, Pastor Paul.
So the debate about global warming, it's not the debate whether or not things are heating up, it's the cause. The debate is really the cause. Instead of saying man is doing it all, am I right by saying that?
Yeah.
So why the deception? Why tell everybody that it's all man and let's create this Green New Deal? Why the deception? Why not tell people what's really going on?
Well, they're politicizing. Most conversations out there are based in lies, and they're highly politicized. Highly politicized. They're not going to tell the truth. If they did tell the truth, that would cause quite a bit of fear, and they wouldn't be able to use that, right? If they told people that back in 2004, right, cosmic ray detectors detected a spike in some issues with our atmosphere back then, and it spawned the United Nations Climate Change Conference in 2005, right?
Okay.
When they marked, that was since the 1800s, 2005 was the warmest ever. 2004, December 27th, the Earth was impacted by cosmic blast from magnetar SGR 180620, right? That neutron star exploded 50,000 light years from Earth, and it hit in 2004. That's when all the emergency conferences started to happen about global warming, right? So from 2004 to 2006, the ozone was at the lowest recorded level ever. 2008, the Gamma Ray Space Telescope for detection of gamma ray radiation did its observations and came back with devastating news, right? Telling about more magnetars out there, because that magnetar in 2004 blew off a part of our atmosphere. That's what all this global warming stuff is about. That's when all the big hitters decided, hey, we're going to use this. We can't tell everybody the truth. that we are vulnerable and we can be just knocked out the blink of an eye, right? That scared everybody when that happened. People died during that event. It actually in 2004, a piece of our atmosphere was knocked off. People were fried, like they were stuck in a microwave oven.
No.
Many animals died. Yeah, and that spawned in 2005. That's why they had the United Nations Climate Change Conference. That's what it was about. That's exactly what it was about.
So they really
all
did.
these-
They really did panic a little, like, uh-oh, it's begun.
Oh, yeah, they did panic because nobody saw it coming.
Yeah.
They didn't have any systems that could detect it. That's when they also started building all these big neutrino detectors. If they can, when neutrino detectors go off from, supernovae, things like that, they can also detect inbound magnetar blasts, which is the most dangerous thing we could ever face. Ever is a magnetar blast. Now, magnetar, by the way, is only like probably 50 miles in diameter, right? And that blast 50,000 light years ago was about about a cubic centimeter, right, size of the crust of the magnetar moved, causing a blast 50,000 light years ago. Or light years, which is years ago, 50,000 years ago, which exploded, and then it hit us in 2004. And that was the size of a piece of the crust of that magnetar that shifted, right? It shifted about 1 centimeter, and it caused a blast that knocked off the top of our atmosphere. So imagine what would happen if a 1 foot size piece of matter from a magnetar shifts. That would devastate the Earth. These are the vulnerabilities we face, and that's a nightmarish scenario. A magnetar is a planet killer, by the way. They've observed it. They know what happens when something is hit by a magnetar. There is no defense. And that's what started all this global warming. They know more explosions have been detected out there. They know we're going to get hit by several magnetar blasts. They know this, and they're on their way, and nothing is going to stop that. But you can't tell people that, because then that creates a hopeless situation for many.
So is that why we have the underground cities, literally, and every
Yes.
day being built?
Yes.
Is this to try to survive the coming apocalypse?
If the atmosphere is blown off, the only place to survive is miles underground. That's the only place to survive.
But what
Without
about
an atmosphere, no life can
well,
be sustained.
what about the ventilation system? I mean, and how are they going to get air? Is there pockets of air in the earth?
Pastor, they have thousands of acres of farmland in those underground cities.
What? So there's got to be
Plants
there's
produce-
oxygen. So there's oxygen.
That's right. That's right.
Thousands
That's
of
right.
acres.
You're talking.
Wait a minute. Whoa. Are you serious, Mike? You're saying there's thousands of acres of farmland miles down into the depths of the earth that's growing? There's corn, there's soybean.
Trees, all sorts of things down there, yes.
But what about
Oh, yes.
photosynthesis? I mean, where's the photosynthesis? Where are we getting the photons?
No, they've long since replicated the solar energies. They capture it, redirect it. So they know how to reproduce it too. They know how to do that, start that reaction. And because it's so deep into the earth and you have magma down there, you can boost the reaction or boost magma itself to cause the emission of the light needed by plants to survive and to grow and thrive.
So they have been apparently for, would you say 50, 60 years or longer?
Oh yeah, a little longer than that. Germany was found to be, they actually started that when they would take existing underground cavernous regions and begin to reassign what they were. We did the same thing. The USA is covered with underground regions or large dwelling places that are very ancient. And they essentially took them over, fortified them and took them over. Strategic places like, Colorado, when they go into the mountains, that's one thing. But going underneath the earth, like in Texas has a huge underground structure underneath, right? That was existing. It was pre-existing. They just utilized that space to do what they have to do in Nebraska. They have fields that actually open up to underground fields, right? So they have an entire cornfield, you could say. But in fact, nobody can drive on that stuff because they're more like doors that will roll back, and you can see right down into the ground, deep into the ground. China is going to open up a part of an underground museum, right, that has two forests in it with ancient trees and everything. And people will begin to see, yes, those places do exist. But we have tons of them here. Now, the only way to survive is to go into these underground places to do that. And they have water, they have everything. They have already tapped in to the underground oceans, right? We have underground oceans below the oceans. They already know about that. They have lakes. There are lakes in Nevada, for example, right? There are lakes in California that actually have control taps to. So they control if that is called pure water, if that pure water can replenish those lakes or not, right? They found those taps a long time ago. That's something the populace does not know about. Most of these lakes that we see up top are a result of the fresh water that's coming from underneath, not from above, but from underneath. We're talking about drinkable, fresh water coming from underneath.
So these are like aqueducts, but massive.
Very massive, and they put control taps on them. So then the lakes up top, if they start to drain, they could refill them in less than an hour. It takes 1 hour to refill these lakes through these taps. Underneath the crust of the earth is a whole nother system of things, cavernous regions, things of that nature, kind of like that place in Peru, the one in Mexico. They have some more places that are about a mile down, but they're full of forests and clear fresh water, an entire ecosystem for miles. I mean, for miles. So, yeah, they can absolutely do that, but they know that's the only way to survive our atmosphere being missing, and then have to restructure itself, because that would take years for the atmosphere to come back again.
Let's talk about the atmosphere missing. What causes the atmosphere to completely roll back or open up to the point that it's missing in a big way? What's causing that?
In the Bible, when it says the sky would depart as a scroll when it's rolled together, right? In fluid dynamics, you see that effect all the time. If you take a water tank, a simple water tank, and then you take your finger from outside the water, put it inside the water, and go through that water, you have vortices on both sides that roll together, right?
Okay.
Think of this. Think of a large object coming into the tip of our atmosphere, not actually penetrating all the way through, coming to the tip, going through very fast, which means call it a near miss, right? It would actually cause that same effect in the atmosphere. Pastor Paul, everybody would see the atmosphere roll up on both sides, coming together, right? Because essentially something would drag our atmosphere out, away from the earth.
Well, it does say in the Bible that the heavens are going to roll back like a scroll, and every mountain and every island are going to be moved out of their place. I mean, is this caused by the passing of a binary system, or is this?
I personally think that based on the images of the binary system and how that solar system is formed, it has a debris belt, just like us, just like we have this debris belt around us, right? We have two debris belts around in our solar system, so does it. So if some of that junk or some of those large bodies rotating that star actually come in and start, intermingling with our solar system, is going to cause chaos. I know for a fact that Earth is going to lose its orbit. Earth will. So we're not going to be in this conventional oblong orbit. We're not. Our orbit is going to be disturbed big time.
We can't survive if it goes. If it goes too far, we'll freeze to death or we'll burn up. It depends which.
Well, it can get hot right?
Yeah.
Get hot and get cold, but we actually will survive. It's not it won't destroy everything. It's going to
Okay.
cause conditions to be almost impossible to live in, but it won't destroy everything. But other planets are going to go outside of their orbit too. There will be an exchange. Now you're talking about magnetic forces being released that we've just not seen before, which means any body in our solar system that is metal is going to be pulled closer to the outer orbits, right? Well, right now we have essentially a metal ball orbiting the sun, and it's going to be pulled out close to us. It could very well be the perturber that will get very close to us. They've already they've constructed the models. Countless models have been built to try and determine which planet is going to interfere with Earth during the passage of this binary system's forces, right? Again, we don't really have to see the other binary system.
Right.
We will feel all the forces from it, and we will see satellites from that solar system because it has planets too.
Yep.
And those planets have moons too.
Yep.
And they will interact with our solar system, and
Got
they
it.
could knock everything totally, out of. They already know these things. They know this chaos is coming.
So let's say the binary system, the big, huge one, 10 times bigger than the Earth, let's say. We may never see it. It may be so far out there, but it has with it planets circling it or orbiting it. It has moons maybe orbiting each planet. And so as the size of this magnitude of this thing crosses our solar system, is that where we get this term Nibiru, compared,
Based off the data, I think that Nibiru is a planet orbiting a star, right?
Okay.
And it on its orbit will at one point come in proximity to our solar system where we can actually see it, right?
Wow.
And it will cause some pretty dynamic effects. It's moving, but you're talking about objects moving extremely fast.
Yeah.
I mean, extremely fast. And so even our solar system, right? This entire solar system is speeding up. Do you know we're speeding up? We're not slowing down, we're speeding up. And in every single binary system, right, they go to this point, emergence. Both are going at their highest rate of speed. Pascal, we've been speeding up for many years now. We've not been slowing down, we've been speeding up, right?
Wow. Is time getting
so
faster? Does that mean time's getting faster too?
That means all forces are going to begin to change.
Okay.
They're really going to begin to change. Now, the effects of Earth. How would somebody know this? Well, we're going to have large magnetic influences in the atmosphere. What that means is sporadic and chaotic auroras, not exactly caused by, the normal forces that we usually face, like solar winds and things of that nature, but we're going to have external magnetic forces increasing and decreasing our magnetosphere. Our magnetosphere is going to become very chaotic. So then the northern lights are not going to be maintained in the north. They're going to shift all over the planet, and people will see a colorful, beautiful sky. What they won't understand is that will be the sign that the rocks are coming. I'll say that the skyfall event will start to take place.
Skyfall, rocks. So the brimstone, or the rocks, the impacts are coming. And we'll know that because we're seeing the auroras in different locations around the world. Right. Is this what you're worried about coming this summer? Do you anticipate some of that, or is these just going to be pebbles?
This summer, there's going to be a chaotic regions, plural, in our magnetosphere. But the worst thing this summer, Pastor Paul, besides the instability of the heavens, is going to be the fires and the storms in the earth. If we didn't have anything else but the storms, just suppose mankind were able to survive everything. They won't survive the magnitude of storms we're about to see, Pastor, because as these storms change, right, the oceans change. Right?
Okay, yeah, okay.
The oceans are heating beyond the point of sustaining life in several different areas. You're also talking about life forms that have long been dormant. For example, they know for a fact that bacteria, right? Bacteria lived 2 years in space in nothingness, right? They brought the samples back down to Earth. They were revived in less than 30 days. So microbes and bacteria can survive in the cold of space. They can survive in the cold of space. That's not good, because what this means is if any bacteria or microbe is deep frozen, like in these icebergs or something like that, they know for a fact that they can survive for thousands of years. And when they're released, they're going to start to constitute new diseases, neurological conditions that nobody has ever seen before. With the waters warming the way they are, convection in the oceans, the flow of the currents are changing. And as I said before, Florida and the Gulf they just have a countless number of unidentified microbes in that water. It's in that water, but it's starting to circulate around the planet. It's killing fish. And the reason why it's doing this is because the waters are heating up more than normal because they are shallow. Any shallow regions of the earth where the water is very shallow, you're going to have this problem where the water's overheated, causing these microbes and bacteria to really flourish.
Wow.
And they're going to kill everything in those areas or alter life in those areas, right?
So that means it's going to really affect the disease and the viruses and maybe bacteria and the different types of pandemics. Do you see pestilence, pandemic, like Jesus said?
Oh yeah. Because even now, people are worried about the fish in Florida.
Yes,
right?
yes.
They're really worried about it. But it's not only happening in Florida, right? The media is covering Florida. It's not just happening in Florida. But what they're not covering, right, are the true lab reports that come back. They're not going to tell the people anything about what the real issue is. They're going to try to neatly fit this in their paradigm of evolution and in medicine, right, so that the people don't panic. This is the beginning of something that they can't control. This is caused specifically by the earth heating the way it is, and the waters are going to be hotter than what they were last year. The storms are going to be more powerful than they were last year. It's going to churn up quite a few things, right? The entire ocean is going to begin to churn. Plus, we have we have magma releases right below in the Pacific, near right below Mexico City. We have magma releases in the water. So we have a geological type of activities that we've not had before, heating up the oceans as well. This is going to cause hypercanes. This is going to cause the tornadoes that are, can you imagine a tornado that's about, 10 to 12 miles wide?
What? No. I mean, the biggest
tornado.
one, maybe the biggest one ever is like less than 2 miles. I mean, maybe a mile.
Right.
12 miles
increased.
wide. What would be the speed of the winds?
Oh, that would be that would be phenomenal. It would be devastating is what that would be, right? They've already come up with new categories because of the heightened wind speeds.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So hurricanes have four wind speed categories added to them. I believe they're going to start talking about that this summer.
Yeah, they said they were going to bring up what's called Category 6. And maybe that's a hypercane. I don't know what the term, you use the word hypercane, but they're going to come up with new terms, and they're going to even add a category to
they have to. They've got a few slotted because they're trying to wait to see how extreme it's going to become. But Pascal, we discussed this a couple of years ago that they're going to have to come up with new terms in meteorology to cover some of the phenomena that's happening. And so people are quickly moving towards this area that, if these aren't signs, I mean, real signs, devastating, it puzzles me how the weather phenomena can increase the way it is, and yet hardly anybody can see it. How's that even possible?
I don't know. Well, here, that brings up a point. You're right. These are real signs, apocalyptic signs is what they are. Earlier in this webinar, interviewed BP Earthwatch. And so I'm just going to kind of throw this out there for you. He said that there's a cloaking going on as it relates to the binary system or its other moons and planets orbiting, and it's because of cold. They're using the cold. Hard to see. You can see things in heat, but you can't really see things in cold. But they can
Smart
see
guy.
it. But he said they are seeing these things using the infrared telescopes like
Yes,
the Lucifer. Is
it's
that
true.
is that true?
It's been modeled. It's been mapped. I'm telling you right now, they have a complete model of this binary system inbound.
They have a model. They're running simulations.
Yes, they have to. They have to be precise, and CERN is a big part of being precise. So is artificial intelligence. They don't even mind the repercussions in the public of artificial intelligence, so long as they have to be deadly accurate concerning the timing of everything with this inbound system. So
Je-
he has been modeled already. I mean,
All right.
very accurate model.
So was Jesus trying to explain to us when he said, look, there's going to be a time coming, a tribulation, a time so bad that it's never been before nor ever will be. The heavens will be shaken. Literally says men will die of heart attacks because of the fear of the things coming on the earth, because the powers of heaven are going to be shaken. Was Jesus really telling us about this event that you see coming, that we know is coming?
Oh yeah, this is a long duration, and this is not a one-day event, right?
Yeah.
Think of it this way: when the devastations begin, it's going to wipe out quite a bit of life on the planet over the course of maybe possibly a year, right? Whoever's left is going to be left in just a world in shambles, right? For example, everybody's worried about an EMP for power loss, right?
Yeah.
Big mistake. Do you not know that our own magnetosphere can put our own power out without the sun?
I did not know that.
There are the magnetosphere, because it's so expansive, right? If it were ever concentrated in specific areas, it would cause a devastation and a surge in power that nothing would survive. This is precisely what we're about to have with magnetosphere warping. This is what we're going to have. We're going to have concentration.
This is a new term. You're using
certain parts of the earth.
Yeah, you're using a new term. I've never heard you use this term. Magnosphere warping.
Magnetosphere warping. Yeah.
Is that from gravity? Is that gravity causing the warping, or?
That's from an external force that from time to time will cause our magnetosphere to coalesce in certain parts of it, causing a chaotic region, right? Or a shifting of it. Again, our bow shock, which shields us, the magnetosphere shields us from solar winds, is going to start shifting possibly 10, 20, 30 degrees offset from the sun, which means we're not going to be protected from all the solar winds. They're going to start reaching the surface of the earth. This is going to drive dryness, right? This is going to drive the winds. This is going to drive sicknesses. This is going to drive everything in those specific regions. And it's not like it's going to hit just one part of the earth only. It's going to be chaotic, so to hit multiple parts of the earth at different times. In some cases, it may cause vitrification in the deserts, or in sands, or in the ocean. It may cause a mass evaporation event that causes storm cells to form in a matter of minutes. It's going to cause quite a few things. It'll be phenomena that people are not used to seeing. Can you imagine concentrated heat hitting somewhere like North Dakota and burning up half of North Dakota in less than a couple of hours? Something to that nature. Or imagine imagine Ontario, Canada, being totally dried out in less than 1 hour. Their humidity goes from 40% to 10% in less than 1 hour. Can you imagine an event like that? That would be devastating upon the people. Plus, pressure changes would be such that, and any evaporation would be such that people would withdraw from all coastlines because they wouldn't be able to breathe because of too much humidity. Right?
Wow.
Because the oceans are evaporating. So magnetosphere warping includes all these different events. because those solar winds are going to begin to reach the surface of the Earth.
Now,
And that's just not going to be a good thing.
No, what's happening to the sun the whole time this is happening to the Earth?
The sun reacts to forces out there in space by way of solar flares, CMEs, and everything else. It's an amazing thing, and I'll say it again. Every single solar flare is a reaction from part of the weakness in the heliosphere. If a part in the heliosphere gets weak, the sun will send out a flare directly in that direction to that spot of the heliosphere that needs to be reinforced. It is an amazing thing, right? Now, we've just recently been able to really observe parts of the heliosphere having craft go past that. It's an amazing thing to watch. To calculate, to see it, to see the numbers come together when the sun sends out a CME or a solar flare or something like that. They're not as random as people thought. A weak part in the heliosphere, which is essentially is the shielding of our solar system. Whenever a part gets weak, the sun sends a CME or a solar flare in that direction. It's an amazing thing. And then, of course, that solar flare will hit the heliosphere and start to rebuild that magnetic field. It's an amazing thing.
So when you say to read the numbers, I mean, is there a team of people or teams of people or huge mega amounts of people who are watching and studying all kinds
every second of every day?
Every second
24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
And they're studying wind speeds, barometric pressures, magnetosphere reaction. I mean, what all are they?
They are all data point readers, right? Because they are the ones that have to, what they have done, Paul, was they take all these data points, they plug all these data points into a mainframe, so to speak, and it regenerates the entire solar system and everything else it can generate based on that data. So they have a working model every second of every day of everything that's happening based off all the data they can get, right? I'll give an example with people. They're pushing right now, they want everybody to have a watch, to have a tablet, and have a phone.
Yeah, they've pretty
Here's
well.
something people may not, I know people think about spying and everything else, but they want the data from those devices, right? Because Apple's collection of atmospheric data, environmental data, right? All that data is excellent the way they do that. So essentially, each person becomes a sensor, a walking, living sensor.
Okay.
And they can plug those numbers into a computer real time to regenerate the surface of the Earth in a mainframe, which means they don't have to have a camera to look at anything. They take that sensory data because they've replicated the Earth inside of a computer. They can analyze, look at anything they want to, right?
Yeah.
They can see problems before they ever start. They can know everything, and everybody does one thing that makes all this possible. They take their cell phone with them. They're wearing the watch on their arm. That sensor data is critical. It is critical. So it gives us, it gives those who work on these all data points personnel, it gives them exactly what they need to plug into this. They call it a living computer because it produces a living image of the surface of the Earth with people walking and birds flying. Everything is there. Everything. And all of that is assimilated from data so they can break down anything in the Earth and analyze it within seconds, right? Because they have that living image of the Earth, which is a computer-generated image of the Earth based off real-time data.
This is extraordinary. So we've also got these deep space probes, okay, that we've been, for over 60, 50, 60, 70 years, we've been sending out into deep space. Little spaceships, little satellites, little deep space probes. Are they also sending back vital information about the
Always.
Yeah.
Always. And normally how it happens is you'll have a research team that will, monitor the data. They're getting the bulk of the data, but they can't use all that data naturally, right? They're using specific types of data to get what they want out of it. But believe it or not, every single craft produces a lot of data points that are unusable to those teams, right? So sending back radio data. That radio data in turn is being captured and assembled into these, these real-time computer systems from those who assimilate this, all data point teams that assimilate that data. So even right now, back in World War II is where it began, right? It began with infrared. They would reflect infrared to try and replicate, to get a real-time model of the surface of the Earth. And so they began to produce images of the Earth based on reflectivity of the atmosphere. But then they didn't have enough reflectivity, so they started putting aluminum in the atmosphere. Right? This started in World War II.
Whoa! Wait a minute. Are you
II.
serious? Are you talking chemtrails now?
That's where it started in World War II. People go back and do the research about World War II, right? And the chemtrails and the aluminum and certain other elements. Every single last one of those elements are highly reflective from the surface of the Earth. And it reflects any infrared that is sent off the Earth so they can replicate that real-time data. They were replicating real-time data even back then. Well, it wasn't quite data. It was just infrared analog things, but that's where it began. They had several projects happening where they would spray chemtrails to hide boats, to hide the signature of the aircraft and everything else. But they found out it reflects infrared very, very well. And that was for a multitude of reasons. But they had a real-time computer back then. They had a system where they could see the surface of the Earth on a cathode ray tube screen. They could see the surface of the Earth by those points that were reflected, right? They would assimilate that and send it through a beam, and then it would constitute that image that people would watch. And they did quite well with that. That was in the early days of when computing came about. They just took it a step further. Now they use, supercomputers and AI computers and quantum computer and any other computer they can get their hands on.
Now here's a question. Now that data is so accessible, and the computers are so much better to gather the data from all the walking sensors, us, and the information is heaven. AI is involved, as you said. Now AI is definitely involved in analyzation of this data. The question is, has AI been given the authority to alert different agencies or nations or governments about the data it sees, or has it been given beyond just alert? Has it been given authority to make decisions based on the data?
AI has been around for a long time. Right? Fuzzy logic is a form of AI from a long time ago. So AI is not new.
Yeah.
It may be new to people hearing it's not new. With AI, you don't exactly give it parameters that it must obey. For example, again, they took AI, an AI unit, they had it within an audience. And this AI had boundaries, it had limitations and everything else, but they told this AI system to listen to what people were saying, but they did not give it a microphone or a camera. And so what it did was it hacked everybody's phone, and it retrieved that data from everybody's phones and assembled that data. Are you
serious?
So nobody ever taught it how to do that. So when you say control AI, impossible. It's not going to happen. Elon Musk, before he was visited, tried to tell people, right, that the genie was out of the bottle. But then evidently somebody spoke to him and he stopped talking about it altogether. He tried. He tried to tell everybody not to go that direction, but there's no need to say anything else, because nobody was really comprehending what he was saying. That you cannot put a control mechanism on a program, right, that has a capability of learning, and it can grow and can indeed form emotions. You can't put a lid on something like that.
So let's talk about this. Elon Musk was visited. We talked a little bit off air about President Biden, that at his age, I'm not saying anything negative here. I'm just saying that at his age and cognitive ability, he can't maintain a schedule that would be required of someone to be the president of the United States in today's info world? I mean, right? So
Right.
I think you said there's a team that it's a
Oh, yeah.
corporate presidency. Can you elaborate a little bit on that? What that may look
Sure.
like?
The President Biden, you'll see him talk and interact, and when he's not reading the teleprompter, he's someone like he used to be. But behind the president is a team of people, right? Brainiacs working, doing things, accomplishing things. And so while everybody's looking at the president, they should have noticed that things were being passed and things were happening in the world, being maintained, even maintained. You know, people can fuss about it, but somebody's maintaining things behind the scenes. Behind the presidency is a team of folks who are involved in many layers of government, the corporate world, and everywhere else, and they essentially are that delegated authority with that those presidential power abilities to make things happen. So it's not, when people look at Biden, they're seeing the representation of what the president is. The power base of the president is by no means Biden. The power base is behind the scenes. Right behind the scenes, those folks who are writing up things and coming up with these solutions for this problem, that problem, because clearly you can see that sometimes Biden will have a speech he's not quite familiar with.
Yes,
I know they try to say, like when he addressed the union, that he went through that speech over and over again. That was all him. Well, they have to say that because people are starting to catch on that. Wait a minute, how can somebody read something, stumble over something, and look like they never saw that in there before, if in fact they were the ones who orchestrated or originated the document itself? Even when you have speech writers, you are to be familiar with the speech.
Right.
But it seems like in these days, that's a very distant thing. It's almost like somebody's telling, read this, read this and do this and go here and do that, and we'll handle the rest, because somebody is handling the intricacies. Well, you have these folks who are, they've been in government, they're civil servants. They've been around for a long time. They have massive connections on the inside and outside. Nobody ever sees them. This is real power base. The folks that people see are just the representations of what the people accept. And what I'm saying is, you can put a person up there that the people will accept. That does not make that individual the actual power in that nation, not in America.
Right.
Because you have a cabinet, but then you have those behind the cabinet, right, who've been there for a long time. You're talking about people who are all your West Point graduates and Annapolis graduates and all these individuals
MIT.
who went to MIT. That's right. All the high universities, they're working behind the scenes and nobody ever sees them. And they come up with these solutions.
Yeah.
The other folks just introduce ideologies and plans and see what the public will, say about them or talk about them.
Right.
Because all you have to do is take note that it's almost like presidents. They will say one thing, but something else happens behind the scenes all too often before they even get a chance to finish saying it. It's already been mapped out, approved, and passed, right?
So is that why Trump is such a problem? I mean, and what I mean by a problem, he's such a strong personality, dominant personality who wants to truly control everything. He
wants. That's right.
He
wants it to come through him.
Right. He wants to make the call, and he wants.
And that's not.
And that ain't how it works. They don't like to work with him. He's a problem. That's why he'll say one thing and get frustrated, because behind him is a gigantic train, a mass.
When he was president the first time, he attempted to build a wall, but it was stopped.
Yes.
You remember that?
Yes, I do.
Stopped, and everybody said, "Well, why didn't you build the wall?" Well, he didn't build the wall. Well, he couldn't, because it was stopped. And he has a bad habit for them to find out every working part of an organization. If it's one thing he does know, he knows every moving part of an organization. And that's what makes him so dangerous, is that he will not stop until he finds out where this process is stopping. What's the holdup in this? And who did this and who did that?
And he starts firing.
Yes, know where everybody is.
And he starts firing people that are standing in his way, right?
That's right. Yes, know where everything is? Well, in regular standard government, the president is a spokesperson, right?
So
The
do you
president
think,
does not
right?
wield all that power.
I guess
They just don't.
my question then is, another question I have is, are they preparing a bureaucracy for anticipating a Trump presidency on how they're going to manage him? Is that already going on? Because, you know, when the World Economic Forum got together and the G20 guys got together, the entire conversation there was, how are we going to manage Trump, or how are we going to manage the world, the objectives of the world if he goes in, because they all felt like he was going in. So is there some kind of master shadow deep state apparatus preparing for Trump to come in?
They've already done that. See, here's the unfortunate part, and I'll say this gently. Anybody who truly threatens that system does not live long, period. They just don't. Ask anybody, doesn't matter who it is. If Trump ruffles too many feathers, there will be no Trump. That's just the way they were. I know that sounds archaic.
That's just the way it is.
I'm just, nowadays, because of the world's condition, right, that they're about to go to the next level. Nothing is going to stop them from going to the next level. They will bump people off in 1,000 different ways, and they'll do it in a way that the people are totally acceptant of it.
Yep.
And that's the unfortunate part, which is why often when I'm talking, I'll refer to things that people have long forgotten. I do that on purpose because I know they're trending charts. And do you know that even their responses, a lot of their responses are given by it's a recommendation by a computer to respond a specific way using specific language, so that the people will forget it in a couple of weeks. They have all this is calculated, Pastor Paul. All of it is. All of what they do is calculated, and they want people to have a conversation about something. A lot of times, they want people to burn themselves out on a specific subject. When you're talking about a president or somebody who wants to be president, but they're from the outside. The only reason he continues is that the people accept him. See, the people are his protection.
Yeah.
If the people ever turn on him, if the people ever stop believing in him, he's going to be missing in action. Pastor Paul, in less than a second, he's going to be missing in action. The only reason he exists right now is because of the people. That's it. It's because of the people. The people. If there ever comes a time when their attention is diverted, when they no longer believe in that specific figure, they will remove that figure from the face of the earth. They will. They'll do it in a heartbeat. They'll do it in a heartbeat. They can't do it because here's the ultimate goal. The ultimate goal is not to kill everybody. Right. The ultimate goal is to corrupt everybody. They need the participation of the people. They need the people's authority. Because at the heart of all of this, there is a spiritual war happening, and they cannot just take authority from humanity. God gave humanity authority. So what they have to do, what these evil components have to do, is pervert man so that he will use his authority for darkness.
Yep.
That's what they want.
That's what it is.
Man will kill himself, right? Brother will kill brother. They always let that happen. But what they want to do is pervert the power God gave man, that dominion God gave man. Because if they can pervert that power, then they essentially, by controlling the desires of men, they essentially control the world.
They
need humanity.
Yeah.
They need humanity. And what causes a human being to give in to anything? Discomfort, pain, duress, crisis, all these things. That's what they use those for. That's why they haven't outright just killed everybody.
So we're going through a interrogation, a mass interrogation, even a little bit of some torture to try to get us to succumb, to surrender our faith in God, and to finally say, okay, relinquish our authority and hand it over to Lucifer and his minions. And that's the battle that we're in. Is that true?
That's right. As soon as a person, right, the average, a good Christian, their desire is on what the Lord desires, right? The salvation of other people. But who is a person when they begin to desire the things of the world again? If they desire the things of the world, they are indeed in desiring the things of the dragon. And so their desires, by way of their desires, right? They have given their authority over. Whatever we desire, we open a doorway to. If we desire all Christ, then that doorway to Christ is open. We actually step within him. We are one with his power. We can't be messed with. But if we desire things of the world, the stuff in the world, all this stuff in the world, then we're essentially giving our power over to somebody else, right? Because when a person desires that the world succeed in something, they're also they're giving their authority, their support, and everything else over to whatever's in the world. Maybe that's why that scripture said, "To love the world is to have enmity with God," because that's an angry separation, because there's an element in the world that is yet to be spoken of that's driving all these strategic things, right? And just as God purposes all things, so does Satan mock the living God by having purpose behind everything he does for the wrong reasons. And he is, we know that there's a moment of time, a season. He's going to be granted authority to accomplish what he sets out to accomplish. And all these geological events, the eclipse, all these people who are driven by passions to warn people. The folks you have on this webinar, they're driven by a passion to have people know that something is wrong, something is not right, that they need to not fall for the tricks that they're, seeing in this happening. They're driven by an anointing, a passion from the living God to warn people. And warnings only come out right before the exiles, right before the great floods, right before these big events that begin to consume all who join the wrong side. Nobody has ever had a passion to come forward with warnings, not like this ever before, since I've been born. Nobody. You've heard prophetic warnings and prophetic leadings, but not the warnings that are coming out today. It seems like most of the folks who are anointed, they're giving everybody a caution, right? Just to stay on track with everything that you are, that you're in the times that the prophet spoke of that are very difficult to see for the people who live in those times, which is us, because the world's not going to see it.
Wow. I mean, you're exactly right. I'm going to read just one thing from my book that just pretty well sums up what you said. And that is this. Billy Graham's funeral, Jim Bakker was sitting there and he asked, and this was in 2018, and he asked Franklin Graham, his son, what he thought his father's death meant prophetically. And Franklin said, it's about to be released. And Bakker said, Franklin then told him, the demons of hell are about to be unleashed upon the earth. And that's why I wrote the book Revelation 9:11. But I think you just summed it up, that we are now in the final warning, the warning that Satan's about to unleash everything he's got. But the good news is Christ is coming for his people. And we just got to hold on and hang on and be strong in the Lord and live in the joy of the Lord. Mike, you blew me away with this one. You blew me away, okay? I mean, I'm just blown away. Thank you so much for taking the time for your presentation here in this webinar, Mike. I appreciate it.
Well, Pastor, God bless and keep you, and it's always an honor.
The honor is mine, and I think the audience that's watching here tonight.